So good afternoon, everyone. I see people coming in. I wanted to do a live today about the COVID-19 vaccine. Give you guys some updates on what's going on with that. I know you guys have seen in the news uh, that this vaccine was actually approved by the FDA on August 23rd, 2021. I'm trying to pull up my slides here. And with that approval, this is the first COVID-19 vaccine that was approved. The vaccine has been known as the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, and it will now be marketed as Comirnaty for the prevention of COVID-19 disease in individuals 16 years of age and older. The vaccine also continues to be available under the Emergency Use Authorization, or EUA for short, including for individuals 12 through 15 years old, and for those, and also it's under that EUA for the administration of a third dose to certain immunocompromised individuals. So I know people, this is what was reported in the media, but I wanted to come on here and talk about a few other things that were not reported. Also, I wanted to know if you guys had actually went and read what was made available to the public. If you go to the FDA website, and that's fda.gov, you can actually go and read the approval letter. You can read the vaccine insert and what's in the vaccine and things like that. You can go and read all that information for yourselves. But I wanted to come on here and spotlight a few things that were in that actual letter that was given to the public. One of the things is that it did not cover any issues that you may experience with the vaccine. It did not, it did not cover or say like who's responsible for any adverse reactions you may have, any it could be death or things like that. It did not have that covered in there. So I did a little bit of research, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But what was striking about the letter itself is that this particular vaccine is still under study. They just pretty much rushed and put it onto market. And when you go and read that letter from pages 5 to 11, it lists all the studies that they're still going to be able to do on this vaccine. Many of them focusing on that myocarditis that people were experiencing. They're also doing studies on pregnant women. They're doing studies on children 5 to 15. They're doing some myocarditis studies for individuals that are receiving this same vaccine in Europe. They're doing studies to see the efficacy over the next 5 years of this vaccine as well. So, in reality, anybody that has gotten the vaccine or who will get the vaccine, you guys are their study subjects. They really don't know how or why or what will happen over the next 5 to 10 years. And so the FDA has given them approval to use you all as study subjects. And you can go there and read it. It's on the letter. It says everything on there. Also, like I said, it didn't say if anything happened to you, who or what's responsible. And it says something else. Yeah, so these studies, they are going to be taking place, some of them up into 2027. So for the next 5 or so years, they're just trying to see what's going to happen. They really don't know. Again, this is a messenger RNA vaccine. These vaccines have never been used in humans. I don't think they've even been used in animals. They've all been under research, and they have never been put out into the public. It's only been, small clinical trials on I think if they did use them, they were mostly done on animal subjects. They have not been used on humans. But this is what we have now as a means to fight the COVID-19 disease. So, yes, and we do know what COVID is doing. I don't understand what you're saying. So I just want you guys to know what's going on and what's going to be going on for the next 5 to 10, maybe 15 to 20 years. That's going to be the time frame that it would normally take to actually produce a vaccine. It would take about 15 to 20 years for a vaccine to be produced. Well, they produced it, put it out in the public, and they're going to monitor for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years to see exactly how this is going to play out, because they don't know. This may open up the doors for other messenger RNA vaccines, but again, this technology had never been used in humans, had never been used for a vaccine, and then now all of a sudden it's just thrusted onto the population. And we've seen over the weeks all the different ways that the media has swayed from, unvaccinated people are causing the mutations, vaccinated people are causing the mutations. The reality is that the vaccine was created. We have mutants now, variants that have changed. They're probably not going to line up with the vaccine that was created, which means they're going to have to create other vaccines to fight those variants, because eventually, if it is effective, eventually those viruses can mutate to the point where they're not going to be effective. And so you have to pretty much come to grips with that. And you also have to come to grips with that the fact that they've done something that they've never done before, as far as using a medical technique that had not been used, and they didn't have proper testing done on it. They didn't have enough, research done. So you guys are their research. Let's see, I have some comments. Didn't they say they had a vaccine template from other... Then they say they have a vaccine template from other... Hold on. Stars. I don't know what that means. We are the experiment, yes. And what's funny about the experiment is that the people that are unvaccinated, we're technically like the controls, and the vaccinated people, they are the actual subjects. So anyone saying it's safe, you should get it, it's actually talking out the side of their necks. They don't have enough information to make that statement. Yeah, basically, there's a lot more research that has to be done, and they're actually going to be doing that research as they're marketing their product. They're going to be doing that research on, and they're using anybody that gets the vaccine as their subjects. Yes, and there are several mutations, not just Delta. Yeah, I have our health department here. They updated the variants that are here, and it's about here in just Hamilton County, Ohio, which is in Cincinnati. There's about 10 variants that they've somehow identified here. Again, I don't know the degree to their testing. I don't know who's doing the testing to determine variants. I don't even know if they have assays to determine that at these actual diagnostic labs. Now, if it's a research lab, that's different. But they're reporting that they have seen at least 7 to 10 variants here, and they have them listed. And the Delta wasn't the highest one; it was actually Alpha. So, and that's not being said in the news. Alpha is dominating in certain areas or whatever. They're just saying that there's variants, and then they're casting blame on all these other people, casting blame on people that they're not even sick. A person that's not sick, a person that does not have the virus, even vaccinated or not, they cannot transmit it to anyone. But if people don't understand, number one, how diseases, especially communicable ones, are passed amongst people, amongst animals, things like that, then they can say whatever to convince people that a particular group is causing this when they're not even the cause of it. Do you know if these variants have the same 99% survival rate as the initial strain? No, I don't know, and they don't know anything about the variants other than that they seem to have streamed from this original this SARS-CoV-2, which that was actually a variant of the SARS-CoV-1 that occurred, a number of years ago. So they don't know. It's all up in the air. They have to do studies on it. You can't just say yes, it's going to be this way, or yes, or no, it's going to be this way. There has to be studies done on it. You just can't jump to conclusions, and that's pretty much what they're doing with this vaccine. They're jumping to conclusions because they haven't done enough studies. When they did the clinical trials in their labs and things, and they had healthy people, when you start administering any type of drugs, vaccines and things to people out in the general public, you're going to encounter all types of different things. People that have genetic disorders, people that have communicable diseases, people that have non-communicable diseases, people, some people can't take certain things because they may be allergic to certain things. So there was a lot that wasn't considered. They never really looked at pregnant women until pregnant women started walking in and they started getting the vaccine, and they didn't know how that was going to affect the fetus development and things like that. Also, if you get the vaccine, you can't donate convalescent plasma, and that was what was being used mostly last year before they came up with this vaccine. They were taking plasma from individuals that had got better from COVID-19, and those plasma had those antibodies in there, and they were administering those antibodies to people that were immunocompromised, and they were having good results with that. Well, now if you get the vaccine, and if they still will take this specimen, these convalescent plasma, because they had stopped doing it, you can't donate it because you have vaccine-induced antibodies. You don't have naturally innate created antibodies because of your own immune system. And so it's a lot that you have to think about if you go and you get this vaccine. Number one, there's not enough data to even tell you what's going to happen a year from now. What's going to happen to those children that get it, that they're in puberty and their whole body's changing. Like what kind of changes, how's that going to affect that vaccine? This is messenger RNA. So I'm just going to give a quick genetics lesson here. So our bodies make messenger RNA, and it makes it inside our nucleus. It's translation. There's all these different processes that go on, and this messenger RNA is sent out of the nucleus of your cell into the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is like this liquid jelly type fluid that surrounds your cells, and then that messenger RNA is taken, that your body produces, is taken, and it's coded by a ribosome inside your cell. And that ribosome, it will match up codons that are on that messenger RNA with codons on that ribosome, and then it will create a message to produce a certain type of protein. And so then that protein is sent out, and it's sent out of the cell, and then that protein could code for a number of different things, whether it be for your immune system or to tell the body to make some particular cells and things like that. Well, when you get this vaccine, this messenger RNA is put into your cell cytoplasm. It never actually makes it into the nucleus, but it's put into your cell cytoplasm so your ribosomes can actually code for it. It sounds good in theory, it sounds good on paper, but again, you're dealing with 7 billion different individuals. I don't know how many people on the planet right now. But if they have it their way, they want everybody on the planet to get this vaccine. So you have 7 billion people getting this vaccine. No one, unless you're identical twins, no one's going to be the same. So at this point, that messenger RNA that came from that vaccine could become mutated, or your ribosome RNA could code it wrong, And what will happen is that it'll produce a different protein than what they were intending to be produced, and then that can cause that's what's called a mutation. And so that mutation, that new protein, it could it could be a silent thing that never manifests, or it could be a a mutation that could be detrimental to whatever that protein was coding for. And so you have to look at this, especially when you're starting to deal with things that use RNA and DNA. That is your body's code. That's what, when you reproduce, that's what you pass on. And so if there's a mutation that occurs, anything can happen. And I think they just need more years of study, not few months. They need years of studies to test that out, and not just have this one virus come out and then all of a sudden we're making a message. We're using the technology we've never used before in humans, and this is just the answer. Your immune system is not the answer, even though we've seen that it has a 99% recovery rate. You've had more people survive COVID-19 than you have died. But if you can put those hundreds of thousands of people died, you're not saying the millions that survived, the millions that produced antibodies, the millions. You're not talking about those. They don't ever put that into the spotlight, because then it would make it look like, oh, it's. Anytime you have death, it's bad. But if you have millions of people recovering and thousands that are dying, that's a normal flu season. You have, on average, it could be up to 40 million people that get the flu, and of that 40 million, 200,000 could die here in the United States. This happened every year, except for some reason 2020 the flu just disappeared, which that's another subject for another day. But that's our numbers normally when it comes to flu season. You can have thousands of people die from the flu every year, and they never bat an eye at that. And they have a vaccine for the flu. They have one. So it wasn't preventing any of these deaths. It wasn't preventing any of those illnesses, those hospitalizations, none of that. But that was okay. But then you have this come out, and then now the whole world has to stop for this. Millions of people die every year from the flu. Well, then we won't even talk about heart disease, cancer, strokes, and all of that stuff. Millions die from that every day. And there's not much being done for that, because a lot of those, especially the diabetes, heart disease, and strokes and things, that's preventable through diet and exercise and a lifestyle change. But they rather you take those blood pressure medications, use the insulin, just put a Band-Aid over it. Keep doing what you're doing that causes that, and we'll just have a medication that will just cover it. And you'll just be on this medication for the rest of your life. And that's what we're dealing with, because at this point now they're saying you have to have a third booster shot. Then what's going to be next? You have to have a fourth booster, fifth. You have to get, and I just saw a study that came out that said that the vaccines, actual antibodies, only last for 6 months. So you're going to have to go back and get a vaccine every 6 months to protect yourself from this. Like, when is it going to end? And nobody's really talking about that. All they're doing is getting their product approved so they can make their money off of it. Let's be honest about what's really going on here. So someone said, are all the vaccines messenger RNA? No, I believe the Johnson & Johnson one is not RNA, but it had its issues as well. The Moderna, the Pfizer, and I think the AstraZeneca are all messenger RNA vaccines. Yes, we're tripping for folks like myself who say no to the jab. Yes, some of our diseases have emotional components. So yeah, there's a lot that has to be looked into with this vaccine. We can't just jump on a particular group and say, oh, you got I have a vaccine now, and I'm scot-free. I'm not going to infect anyone. That's not the case. Again, I'll use flu as the example. They have a flu vaccine. Every year, people get the flu. Even people that have gotten the flu vaccine get the flu. So let's be mindful of that. The vaccine is not the magical cure. All right, so um, let's see here. So I want you guys to go and actually read the letter, read the vaccine insert. Go on the FDA website. When you go on there, it's the top first thing that you see, because they're proud of what they've done as far as approving this. So I want you guys to go there and read that. But I also want to talk about the HRSA. HRSA stands for Health Resources and Service Administration. This is also a government based organization, and you can go to hrsa.gov. I'll also put a link on another slide in a second. But this is the website where if you have you can get an injury compensation program. Like I said, on the FDA website, and as far as who's covering if you get sick, jobs are now enforcing that people get this vaccine and stuff, but nobody's talking about, okay, what happens if I have a reaction to this vaccine and I get sick, or I die, or somebody in my household dies, or they get sick, or whatever. Nobody's talking about who compensates you for that. And so I was doing a little research, and I found a HRSA. I mean, it's a start. I'm not going to say that this is going to be the answer to this, but this is the Injury Compensation Program. And they have two programs. They give individuals a a stream system for compensation for their injuries. And so the two programs, and I'm going to go over each one really quickly. The two programs are... Oops, that's not the right one. So we'll talk about this first one here. The injury compensation programs. The first one is called the Countermeasure Injury Compensation Program. This compensates individuals for serious physical injuries or deaths from a pandemic, epidemic, or security countermeasures. The other one is... The other one is called the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program, or VICP. The VICP compensates people injured by certain vaccines given routinely to children and adults. These include the seasonal flu vaccine, measles, mumps, rubella, or polio. You notice it didn't say COVID-19 on there. This is not a routine vaccine. It was not put on there, but they have their own section for COVID-19. And I would suggest you guys go on the website and read about this particular program as far as it concerns COVID-19. For those of you that have claims associated with actually getting the COVID-19 vaccine or other COVID-19 related countermeasures, so say you had COVID-19, you went to the doctor, and they, it was a time when they didn't know what medication was going to work, what techniques, what different treatments were going to work, and so they were all experimenting. And if you say you think you were injured because of that treatment, you can go on this website and you can file a claim. Now, it's going to be this long due process that your claim has to go through. First, it's going to be the Health and Human Services. Then it's going to be the CDC, the Department of Justice. They're all going to look at your claim. If they approve it, they'll compensate you for your claim, as for your injury, or if you're doing this on behalf of an individual that may have passed away, you get that compensation. I'm not saying that they're going to give you one. Like I said, they're going to do a whole investigation. They're probably going to talk to your physician, and in this case you probably want to have your own attorney, but it said on the website that even if they find your claim to be not eligible for compensation, that they may still cover legal fees and things like that. So it's something to look into, because of right now they're not saying that you have anything other than you report it to the vaccine injury website, and then they just have that data that you were injured by the vaccine. I can't tell you how often they compensate people. You can go to the website and see that if they have that information listed on there. Again, this whole COVID-19 vaccine stuff is new. And it could take a long time. Again, it's going through a legal process. It's going through courts. It's going through the Justice Department. So you might not hear anything for 3 to 4, 5, 6, however long years. They'll drag it out. But I'm just telling you that this is an option if you've actually experienced a countermeasure, or you experience an injury or a death associated with especially COVID-19. But I had listed some other vaccines. There's the measles vaccine, rubella, mumps. If you've experienced anything that you feel that you were injured because of that, you can file a claim, and then that claim, like I say, it will go through this whole investigation, and then they will, decide whether or not you get compensated. Speaking of that, Pfizer, they've had their list of lawsuits against them, some of them as recent as 2020. I got a card in the mail because they were one of the companies that was spiking up the price of the EpiPens, starting back in like 2010 up to 2019. They had spiked the price. Well, EpiPens used to be really cheap. They were like a few dollars, and they went up to like $600 per EpiPen. Pfizer was one of the companies that was involved of that price spike. And so now there's a class action suit that is active right now because of them spiking that EpiPen up, and it caused some people to not be able to get the EpiPen. And so, we probably have people that have passed away because they were, had an allergic reaction and they couldn't use their epinephrine, or it could have been some adverse reactions and things like that. So with that being said, I don't understand how Pfizer got this type of elevation with their actual vaccine. But then I have to think back when, before there was a change of administrations, Trump actually owned a lot of stock in Pfizer. And so, of course, like, I know recently he had did a lot, he was at a rally and he was telling people to get the vaccine. Yes, he'll tell people to get the vaccine because he's going to get something out of it by people getting the vaccine. People think that these things are free. The government has already paid for millions of these vaccine units, and they have to be, administered, or eventually they're going to expire. I think they only have a 9-month shelf life, and so after that you have to get rid of them. So you have to make sure people actually, get these products, because you made them, you manufactured them, you spent that money, you shipped them and things like that. You have to make sure that people are using these products, and so they're going to do that by any means necessary so they can, make their get their money's worth for their product. Johnson & Johnson has issues too with lawsuits. They were the baby powder that was causing all types of cancers and fibroids and things in women, probably as well as boys. I mean, they don't talk about that, but a lot of baby boys, they had powder used on them, on their their genitals and things, and it could cause just same amount of problems in males as in females. I don't understand how they got a contract to make this vaccine. Again, you have all these companies that have had a history of doing wrong by citizens, but yet they're the top contenders to make these vaccines, and then we're just supposed to assume that they're safe. So I mean, you have to take all this into consideration when you're making a decision to do any type of thing that's going to affect your health or someone else around you. So it's not just a matter of diet and exercise. We have to be in a safer environment as people of color. That too. And we also have to have our own, we need our own medical system. We need our own agriculture system. We need our own a lot of things that I always talk about. And people get mad when I bring that up. Like, no, we should be able to. No, we're dealing with a population of people that have always done wrong by us, and we should not feel like they're ever going to change. We should be the ones to do that changing. And the only way you make that change is that you have to have your own your own things, so that you don't have to become a victim of theirs. A vaccine every 6 months for an illness that has a 99% rate is insane. It is insane. But this is what they're trying to push. They're already trying to make it seasonal. This didn't even exist supposedly until 2020, and then I hear physicians now talking about this is a seasonal virus. So are you inadvertently telling us that you rebranded the flu? Because how can something be seasonal that never existed all of a sudden now is seasonal? Yeah, it's just, you gotta listen to what they say when they're in these interviews and stuff. You gotta get past all the fluff that they throw out there and listen to what they're actually saying. I have a guard right now, but the climate change has been a mess. Yes, that's another thing that we have to deal with, is with the climate change. So a lot of us gonna have to learn how to, produce things and grow things in different environments, like greenhouse environments, indoors. Everything can't be done outside anymore because of the way they can manipulate weather and things like that. None of this, when people try to say people are being conspiracy theorists and they're making up stuff, no, they have things that can manipulate the weather. They have things that can cause earthquakes. They have things that can cause natural disasters. And it's real out here. They have means of making diseases and administering them to large populations of people. And now they have diseases that they can actually alter the messenger RNA. You have to look at what they're doing here. And you just can't take everything they say as face value. I overstand you. Codified. That, and they have one regarding oxytocin and other opioids. Yes, I mean not Johnson. Is it Johnson & Johnson? Johnson & Johnson and Pfizer. Pfizer has the most lawsuits that have been brought against them. Johnson & Johnson doesn't follow far behind. And I'm pretty sure some of these other pharmaceuticals, these big ones, they have a lot of lawsuits as well. So again, you need to go and research. I want you all to, because every time I come on here and I start talking about COVID-19, people trying to jump on my post and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to scare people. I got this information, like I get all the information from the source. This came from the Health Resources and Service Administration website. You can pull that website up and you can read all about how you can be compensated if you're injured by one of these events, whether it's a vaccine or if you're injured by, the pandemic itself. You can go to the FDA site and you can read all about when they renamed the drug with the COVID-19 drug. You can go to Google and you can search and do a Google search and find all the Johnson & Johnson lawsuits, all the Pfizer lawsuits, all the Moderna lawsuits. All these places have lawsuits. So you can go and you can look up this information yourself. I take snippets and I try to report what's trending in the news, so people understand why that's trending. The media is going to create a picture to glorify a particular aspect of that issue, and it's going to sway people to either be for or against it. I just go to the source and I tell you, this is what the source says. Like, people got mad when I went and I said that vaccinated people were transmitting the virus, the variants, and it wasn't unvaccinated people. Not to say that unvaccinated people can't transmit it, but you have to be sick with something. You have to actually have the virus. Just because a person is unvaccinated does not mean they're sick. And people need to get that in their heads. It'd be just like somebody came up to you and you told you had HIV because you were sexually active. Like, okay, no, I don't have HIV, and you test yourself and you found out you don't have HIV, but somebody can just come and tell you because you sexually active, so you have HIV. This is what we're doing now. You're using a virus and you're saying, oh, this person has COVID because they don't have a vaccine. That doesn't make sense. That does not make sense. So don't sit here and buy into that nonsense. Has that person been symptomatic? Have they been around a person that has COVID-19? Now, a person that has been vaccinated yes, they technically have COVID-19 because they've used the virus to put the virus into you, so it triggers your body to have an immune response, so it'll fight it. So you've been inadvertently given part of the virus, and so you're technically a carrier of that virus because your immune system says, okay, they put it in there. Your immune system is supposed to attack it, and then it's supposed to prevent you from getting it if you actually come in contact with it out in the world. Once you come in contact with it, it's supposed to trigger your body to fight it off. But that doesn't prevent you from getting COVID-19. It doesn't prevent the virus from getting into your body. It's not like a shield. You still can pick it up. And so that's what was happening. People that were vaccinated, they were transmitting it because they think they were invincible. They are saviors. I mean, they had this self-righteous attitude like, oh, I got the vaccine, so I'm good. No, you're just as vulnerable as an unvaccinated person. And especially now that we have at least 10, 15, 20 variants out here. We hear Mississippi folks walking around breathing on folks. Okay, I need you guys to like bring it down a little, because every day your body encounters deadly pathogens every day. Whether you breathe them in, the activities that you do, if whatever, your body has been equipped to help you fight off disease, and cancer. But they are trying to convince you that your body isn't capable of doing this without their intervention, and that's not the case. Before vaccines were ever created, people would get sick, their bodies would create those antibodies. If you reproduce, a lot of those antibodies would be passed on to the young and things like that. This phenomenon has been going on for thousands, if not millions of years, and it doesn't just happen in human bodies. It happens in animals as well, insects, all types of things. And so, but if they can create a scenario, and then they talk you out of, the basics, good diet, exercise, reducing stress, things like that, that helps your immune system. But if you create an environment where people are always stressed out, they're always in anxiety, always in fear, then you take away their ability to feed themselves good food, and so all you have is all this bad food around. You have people that now they work in an office and they're sitting at a desk for 8-12 hours a day, and they're not, they're just sedentary and they're not getting out and having activity. People don't even want to go out in the sun anymore. The sun, that's a big healer right there. People, they need to get sleep. Sleep is very important as far as the body healing itself. There's a lot of things that you can naturally do on your own to help your body fight off disease. Drinking water and not drinking all this other stuff, that would help too. But nobody that's in these big government official offices are telling people that. All they're telling you is that you gotta get this vaccine. You gotta get this vaccine. You gotta get this vaccine. You gotta take this drug. Like, for real. Like, we need to really realize that it's a war against your own body, and they're winning it because you guys are falling into this trap. And I'm not saying that medicine doesn't help, because it has helped people, but the medicine that we're getting now is not the same medicine we were getting 100, 200 years ago. It's sometimes I don't even think that it is medicine. It just might be something they just mixed up so they can put it on the market. And they'll tell you, they'll make a nice commercial for it. Yeah, everybody in the commercial's laughing and happy, and everything's just hunky-dory, and all you do is pop this pill and your life just goes back to normal and everything just be great. And we know life don't work that way. But if we get caught up in the media, we get caught up in the social media, we get caught up in all this stuff that distracts you and clouds your mind, then you can't think straight. So you just internalize everything that comes at you, and you're like, oh, I gotta get this vaccine because they're telling me all these people are dying. But they don't tell you every day the thousands of people that die of cancer every day, the thousands of people that die each day of heart disease, the thousands of people that die every flu season every day. They don't tell you that. I used to be a disease investigator. When flu season came around, I would have hundreds, stacks of cases just in this county, here, Hamilton County. I would have stacks of people that had the flu, and they were hospitalized, and many of them were vaccinated, and they were in the hospital for the flu. And I can't get when people say, like, if a person's vaccinated and they hospitalized, or they're and they're being intubated and stuff, and they pass away or something, and they convince you that, well, because they got that vaccine, they didn't suffer as bad as the person that didn't get the vaccine. I can't tell if a person's intubated from the flu that got a vaccine next to a person that didn't get the vaccine and they're intubated. I can't tell who's suffering is worse, because they're both intubated. They both can't breathe. So how did that vaccine make their suffering less? It didn't. They're suffering this. They're undergoing the same treatment as a person that didn't have the vaccine. So I'm like, okay, I can't believe that they can convince people in their minds that's the truth right there. That, you know, the vaccine, they just won't suffer as much. They just won't hurt as much. And that's not the case. That's not the case. Because like I told you, that they painted this picture like, oh, you just get this vaccine and COVID-19 will just go away. It didn't go away. And in fact, it mutated. So now we had COVID-19 2.0 and up to 10.0. And we have a vaccine that they just approved under the notion that they can still study and see what's going to happen along the way. And so you guys need to be aware of that. You know, I didn't want this to turn into this, but it needs to be said, because, you know, I have people come on here all the time when I'm trying to explain things, and they're telling me, oh, you're trying to scare us. And I no, the media is the one that's scaring you, because if they can convince you that a person that doesn't even have something is the culprit, and you're not looking at the actual people, the organizations that are telling the media this information as the actual culprits, I don't know what to say for you. You guys, you put the trust in these like pharmaceutical companies, and they have hundreds of lawsuits against them from people having allergic reactions, to people dying from stuff, or, you know, their children being born with birth defects and things. And you don't look at them as fear. But when I say something on here, I'm spreading fear. But you don't even go and look at Pfizer's websites. You don't even look at you know, Johnson & Johnson's websites. You don't even look at Moderna's websites. Everything that they are saying on the media, they're giving you a sugar-coated version to sway your mind one way. Go straight to the source. Go straight to Pfizer's website. Call Pfizer up. Ask them. You guys know that the Pfizer, the CEO of Pfizer, he didn't even get the vaccine. Said he was gonna wait it out. Why wouldn't you stand behind your product? If you knew it wasn't something wrong with it, why wouldn't you stand behind it and get it yourself? Métis boys, also on the grow your own food tip. There's a black-owned seed company here on IG. Yeah, there's quite a few seed companies. Every commercial has a list of side effects worse than disease. Exactly. Also helping detoxing and trauma. I do all that. And I still had HB. So also you realize that people are going to get sick. I mean, germs, they've been in existence as long as living creatures have been in existence. So people and things are going to get sick. Things are going to die. Nothing on this planet is going to be here forever. That's a living organism. So every year, like I said, hundreds of thousands of people die from the flu. Hundreds of millions of people around the world get the influenza. And, you know, No one ever thinks about that. Like, they don't ever realize that all these people die every day. Um, so, my stream is working fine for me over here. I'm not sure over there. I'm not having any issues. But know that, a pill is not going to keep you here forever. A vaccine is not going to keep you here forever. People die. People get sick. People have they have birth defects and things like that. But there's other things that add to that can cause that may not have caused that in the past. So just be mindful of that. There is no magical cure that's going to keep you here forever. It's not. It's not. But yeah, I would go to the HRSA, National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. This is for those that have already gotten the vaccine and say you feel you've suffered some adverse reaction or you suffer some countermeasure because of COVID-19. I would go to this website and look at the look at the options that are available on this website, and go from there. Like I say, go to the FDA. You can see all the studies that they're still going to be doing. They're going to do a lot of myocarditis studies. They're going to do a lot of studies on people that are underage and things like that. And they still have to 2027 to get those studies done. And it says their schedule of when they have to have reports in and everything on there. Go to those websites. The stuff is there. Go to the CDC website. It'll tell you, which counties are supposedly having an increase in cases. Go to these websites. This is where media pulls some of their information, and then they add their own little twist to it. But go to those websites and look at that information, and then go get some anatomy books. Go get some immunology books and start reading about what's innate immunity. What kind of type of immunity am I experiencing when I get a vaccine? I did a whole YouTube live about our immune systems and things. You can go and watch that video, but I want you guys to go beyond what I say, because a lot of times people don't believe what I say. So I want you to go and you look at these look at the things that I provide you, those links and things like that, and you decide. I can't tell you to get the vaccine. I can't tell you not to get the vaccine. All I can tell you is that this is what you're dealing with if you get it, and then you see what you're going to deal with if you don't get it. Now they're trying to create like I guess vaccine laws like they used to do black laws where black people couldn't go in certain places and stuff. They're making laws now. Just be mindful of what's going on. Just also be mindful of the experiments and things that the government has done. I know people always thought that Tuskegee is one of thousands of experiments that were ran on not just black people. They experiment on everybody. They used to drop mosquitoes on people to see how well they would spread, so they could see if they wanted to administer a pathogen on mosquitoes. They wanted to see how far they would travel. This happened here in the United States. They dropped mosquitoes on people in Florida and Georgia. They did it multiple times. They dropped fleas on people, ticks on people, because all of these are vectors of many diseases. And if you can get them to carry that disease, and you can get them to drop these insects on and arthropods on people, and they bite you, then you can get these diseases. And you don't ever have to have a person actually come in and administer. You'll just let biology. That's why it's called biological warfare. You let biology play out, and you can't really pinpoint it on a person. You'll say, oh well, it's just a flea outbreak due to rats or mice or something, and in reality it'd be where people had dumped these insects and arthropods on people with these diseases. You just do some history searches. Look up. That's how Japan had wiped out 500,000 Chinese during, I forget which war. They dropped flies and fleas on them that had dysentery, and the people got sick with dysentery, and that's a diarrhea disease, and they died from dehydration. So I mean, it's not anything new. Biological warfare is anything new. We've been doing it. They'll drop beetles on people's fields so the beetles will destroy their crops. That's biological warfare. Just be mindful of that. Like, realize what you're dealing with here. Don't always get caught up. People have their mind what a doctor is supposed to look like, or what a scientist is supposed to look like. I'm a scientist, but I don't meet that the definition of what a scientist is. Usually, it's a white male in a lab coat. So you listen to a white male in a lab coat, and every scientist is good. Every scientist isn't out to help people. There's a lot of sinister scientists. It's a lot of scientists that work for these companies to that they are paid to make up data, whether it be for a product or against another industry or product. Sugar being one. Scientists were paid for the sugar industry, by the sugar industry, to make it look like sugar wasn't contributing to heart disease and strokes and diabetes. That's meat. And so sugar industry paid these scientists lots of money to come up with these studies that showed that it wasn't sugar causing these problems. Oh no, it was the meat. But then when you look out in reality, there's some populations of people that don't live here in the United States, or live up in Canada and things, and that's all they consume is meat, and they don't have heart disease, strokes, diabetes, breast cancer, all this. But you come here and you start eating this U.S. diet that's laced with sugar. Number one, sugar being the number one thing, because it gets you dependent on it. Then on top of that, they have all these preservatives and chemicals and stuff that should never enter the body. Then you have a population of people that have all these health issues. And in those health issues, they exacerbated the COVID-19 symptoms. So if you already had a heart problem and then you got COVID-19, 9 times out of 10, those people that died, they died because of the heart problem they already had, but it was diagnosed as the COVID-19 killed them. No, it was what they already had. It was just something that helped exacerbate that, but that didn't kill them. Their actual heart disease or their diabetes problem actually killed them. And then you have this vaccine that's causing myocarditis. How do you think that's going to play out in somebody that has a heart issue? That's not going to play out very well. Yeah, I've never seen the whole world be on the same page at the same time. I have. When we had 9/11, it was all this camaraderie. Everybody needs to work together to fight terrorism. Yeah, it's happened before. Again, it's a media, it's a media-induced camaraderie. Huh? Yep. It's always us against them. So So now it's against the vaccinated against the vaccinated, but nobody's looking at where exactly did this virus come from? What happened to the flu? Nobody's talking about that. The year before, we had 40-something million flu cases. So many thousands died. So many hundreds of thousands were hospitalized in 2019. In 2020, we had 2,000 cases of the flu. Come on now. Come on. If I just looked at the numbers of the flu and the COVID, my mind would tell me, oh, y'all just use flu numbers to give COVID numbers. That's how I would look at that. And then all of a sudden, they also said when people were wearing the mask and social distancing, that's what caused the flu to disappear. But that wasn't what they were telling us to do to get the COVID-19 to disappear. So how did COVID-19 increase, the flu decrease, but they supposed to be transmitted the same way? They're upper respiratory diseases. So if I'm wearing a mask, I'm social distancing and all this stuff, they all upper respiratory diseases should disappear. But somehow COVID stayed around, and then all of a sudden they said, well, it's because people weren't wearing a mask, social distancing. Which one is it? You can't say a disease disappeared because everybody was doing it, and then say this one didn't disappear because everybody wasn't doing it. That doesn't make sense. But anyway, I just want to tell you guys that information. Check out hrsa.gov. Also check out the fda.gov so you can see the information about the COVID-19 vaccine approval. Go to the CDC. You can monitor, which areas are having high cases of COVID transmission. And just, guys, just be aware of what's going on out there. And if you have any questions, you can always inbox me. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll talk with you later.